In just a little bit, you'll see why I'm nervous for those who are absent. In my 9 o'clock class, I had a lot of people absent, and today is one of those days that you're gonna go, oh my God, am I so glad I wasn't absent for that, because I've got a truckload of information to share with you. So, and the burden will be on you if you want to be benevolent and be able to share your notes with those who could not be here today. So, my first question to you is, how did the rib, I want to know about your process for rib in making the hue circle, the rib hue circle. How did it go? What was your process? Did you use math? Did you use the computer? Did you use your eyeballs?
I just used the blend tool specified.
Use the blend tool, okay. And did it work out perfectly?
Specified steps of 5, because there's 5 in between the 2 colors.
Don't tell me the answers, just tell me what your process. So use the blend tool. And visually it looked good. It looked perfect. Okay, what else?
I just use math.
Use math. Talk to me about math. Did you sort of like figure out in your head?
Yeah, like kind of, like I figured if this one was 100, this one was 100 yellow, 100 cyan. The middle one would be 100 cyan, 100 yellow.
Wow, but if it were math, wouldn't it be 50-50? When you did the blending, was it 50-50? She says yes. Was she right or wrong?
I don't know.
You don't know.
It looked right when I did it. I don't know.
Okay. When you did 50-50, did it look right? It did. See, she's sure of it. Are you sure of yours? Okay. Other process. David, what was your process?
I tried math, but then I just tried using my eyeballs.
Used your eyeballs. Did it work out? Okay. How'd it go?
I used the blend tool.
You use the blend tool. So did it do a 50-50? Was that correct?
Yes.
It was, okay. And did you, I would see show of hands, did you find a pattern to the numbers, a structure? You did. You did. You did. Anna?
I use a bit of everything. I didn't quite use the blend tool, try to figure it out with math,
Mm-hmm.
and I eyeballed it, and then I was like, I gave in when it came.
You gave in.
When it came to the blue and the yellow, because it just didn't look right to me. So
You mean that green didn't look right to you?
yes.
Okay.
I used the blend.
Use the blend. So did you do the, okay. All right. In just a little bit, you're going to be mad at me with what I'm going to show you, but that's okay. So, okay, so we have our hue circle, and it's in CMYK, and select a wedge. Eyedropper tool, drop in our primary yellow, drop in our primary magenta, drop in our primary cyan. Now, if I were to do a blend between blue and magenta, cyan and magenta, and when you did your blend, did you do the whole sweep, the 5 in between, or did you do the 1 in between?
I did all 5.
You did all 5, okay. So what she did was she created that, and then after filled it with magenta, and then selected them, picked up her blend tool, which is here, double click, specified steps, 5, okay, and click, and so here's the middle, and if I were to select the middle, it is 50-50. 50-50. Is that right? Visually, it doesn't look right to me, but I'm gonna try your method now. okay? And so what I'm going to do is select this line, get rid of it for now, select this actually, let me keep it. Okay, so I'm gonna select this wedge, and I'm gonna do 100% magenta and 100% cyan. Look at the difference. The difference is that this is full saturation, this is a tint of this. So that does not work, okay? So if the process is for secondary colors, 100 in the middle is 100, 100, then therefore it should work with the middle that we have here, and that should be 100 yellow and 100 magenta for red orange. And then here should be 100 yellow with 100 cyan, a beautiful green. Okay? So, now that's interesting because now we do have a pattern to the numbers. And the pattern, the structure is so far, everything is either a 0 or a 100, correct? For primaries and secondaries. That makes sense. So, using her application, now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a blend. And I'm going to blend between magenta and violet. And fill that with violet. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up, select both of these, and I'm going to pick up my blend tool and click, double click, and I'm going to do 1, 2 steps. Click and click. Ooh, okay, so now what I can do is select this wedge and fill it with this, and select this wedge and fill it with this. This is making sense. Now watch what happens when I go from magenta now to red-orange. Take a look at this line down here. So I'm going to select the violet and put in the red-orange. Boom. And then select, click, and now I'm going to go from red-orange to yellow. So I'm going to select the magenta and put in the yellow. Boom. Select the wedge, and boom, and wedge, and boom. Okay? Let's look at these numbers now. And I'm gonna round off the numbers to you. I'm not gonna use the decimal points. So let's look and see if there's a pattern. 100Y, 33 M 100Y, 66 M 100Y. 100M, 100Y, 100M, 66Y, 100M, 33Y, 100M, 33C, 100M, 66C, 100M. Is there a pattern to the numbers? What did it do? It's in thirds. So the pattern to the numbers is either 0, 33, 66, or 100. That's the pattern. Does that make sense? Sure, you're a skeptic. Trust me, I'm the teacher in this. So we do, number one, have to use our eyes. We can use the computer to blend, but it can't blend everything. It can't do everything because the computer does math. And when you go from here to here, the computer would divide it in half and give you a tint. The computer will not give you full saturation, but it will divide these between these successfully and give you that structure, that pattern in numbers like we saw with RGB. Okay? So my next question is, and I'm showing you this because now you can go back and you can change your files when you turn it in. At the end of the semester, it's correct. Okay? So if that pattern looks right, which it is, it's absolutely correct. How did it go working with with Rib?
It got weird between.
It got
blue and yellow.
weird. Why did it get weird?
Most of the way around it, like the pattern kind of matched up, and then when you got between blue and yellow, it kind of made grayish colors.
Were you the one that last class said that Rib was easier for children? Yeah. Was it? Was there a pattern to the numbers? Okay. So if we have Mick here, and we have Rib here, red, yellow, and blue. And then if we have magenta, yellow, and cyan, what's the difference between these two palettes visually? This palette does not have any cyan and has no magenta in it. The red, which is here, gets pushed over here, and the magenta is non-existent and the cyan is non-existent. Therefore, Rib is a heavier palette in red, or it's a warmer palette. That's why when you mix red, yellow, and blue together, Rib together, you get a brown. What a brown is a muddy, very muddy red, or a very muddy orange. And that's why you get brown. But in Mick, you get a perfect black, perfectly black, okay? So now I ask my question again. Why is Rib still being taught today? Did you think about this? Did you ask somebody? Did you come up with anything? Did you come up with anything? What?
I think it's because in elementary school they teach you that red, yellow, and blue are the only colors that you can't make with other colors. And green, they teach you that green is secondary. I think they're worried.
But green is secondary. In Mick, it's secondary.
In Rib.
In Mick too. What else? Any other thoughts? Is your mother a teacher?
No.
Yeah. Whose mother is it? Nobody? Okay, sorry. I thought you. Sir.
I thought it had something to do with the eyes,
The eyes.
the rods and the cones of eyes, but I doubt it.
Rods and cones in the eyes.
Because of how we visualize color.
That's a smart answer, but no. Yes.
The only thing I could think of was, since when I did it with the blend tool, I got browns instead of grays. So when you're a kid, you try to draw people, and when you get browns, you get types of skin tones maybe. So that was the only thing I could think of.
It's a nice attempt, but no. Nice. Remember I told you last class the story about Newton and I mentioned the artist? I did that intentionally. Now the reason why I brought up the artist is because way back then I did say to you that the artists, they were pretty much fixed to the colors based on their region. Now, if they lived in a port city, they would have access to other colors or other pigments from around the world. But if they lived in a rural environment, they were pretty much destined to the palette of natural materials around them. Remember, to be an artist, to make colors, you had to ground the colors up and mix them with the binder to be able to give them the viscosity to get the paint, right? Also, do you remember when I introduced you to the spectrum, and what Newton did was he took that spectrum, high end, low end, grabbed them like a donut and overlapped the high end with the low end, and he made that color magenta. And I said to you that magenta is a man-made color. Magenta does not exist in the rainbow in nature. It is a man-made color that Newton gives us, okay? So my speculation is that because of the limitation of that time, the limitation of technology, magenta and cyan were not available to artists as a colorant, as a pigment. The closest that we could get to the hue circle was in rib, and it became the standard that got adopted decade after decade after decade after decade after decade, and accepted as the truth. But the reality is that the world that you live in and the world that your children are going to be very much a part of, that you're a part of, is what she's doing. She's working in RGB. She's looking in RGB, and if she wants to print it, she's printing in CMYK. So this system is, and I have a PowerPoint for you, or a visual presentation for you. That system is considered, it is obsolete. And I'm going to show you things that are obsolete to prove my point. A rotary phone. Is it necessary to have a rotary phone these days? Why, Grace?
Well, with modern cell phones, you don't really need a landline.
You don't, and it only does one thing, and it's not, hey Siri, call my mom up on the phone, right? It's cumbersome.
You just activated it.
Excuse me?
You just activated Siri.
Oh. Do I have mom? I couldn't find mom, sorry. Okay, go away, Siri. All right. Next, do you know what this is?
Refrigerator?
An icebox.
It is not a refrigerator.
It's an icebox.
It is an icebox. And it doesn't have a plug to it. When your great-grandparents had one, put a big block of ice in here and it would cool what's down here. As a matter of fact, my father used to say things to me like, hey Eddie, go in the icebox and get me a beer. And I grew up with an actual refrigerator being called an icebox, but it was not an icebox, it was a refrigerator. An ice tray, some of you may still have one of these. TV set console, your great-grandparents or grandparents may still have that, where it was a huge, big piece of heavy furniture, not a flat screen, and it had a rabbit ear for antenna that you would have to adjust for reception. That's obsolete. A tape recorder, not just a tape player, but a recorder, a cassette tape recorder. A roller skate, not a rollerblade, but a roller skate. The wheels were not made of synthetic rubber, they were made of steel. Your clips, this is where your shoes went in, your ankles got strapped in, there was a key to adjust the size of it. A pager. David, you smirk.
I just thought of like Avengers and Nick Fury had a pager.
I'm sorry, what?
I just thought of like from the Avengers and Nick Fury had a pager.
Oh, God, do I feel old. This photograph may look a little absurd, but it's because of this that I brought it. And again, it's one of those words that has just been adapted. Some of you may be familiar with this word, where a parent, a grandparent, a great-grandparent may say, hey, let's cover the ribs up in tin foil. Tin foil doesn't exist. What we use today is aluminum foil, because tin foil, to create foil from aluminum, from tin, is too expensive, too costly, so it's much more effective to use aluminum foil. The proper terminology for it is aluminum foil, but sometimes our relatives may refer to it, as my father did, as tin foil, because that's what he grew up with. That's what it was, but that's not what it is. Typewriter, floppy disk. We were so fortunate during this period to be able to have floppy disks to put maybe an equivalent of 3 term papers on each floppy. And now red, yellow, and blue ribbon. They are obsolete. They have absolutely no place in the world that we live in. They have no real relevance or connection to the technology that we work with. It is obsolete. So, from this day on, You are now responsible. Many of you, all of you, when you have children, you must promise me that when you take that child to his or her first day of kindergarten, you will approach that teacher and say, I would like my child to learn Mick and not rib palate, please. And if you don't know what that is, let me teach you what it is. But that child is, because that child is a technocentric child, must know must know RGB and Mick, CMYK, because that's the world we live in. Does that make sense? No? Yes? Questions? All right. So, on to more things. You got a heavy day today. So, today marks the day that we say permanently and lay rib to permanent death. It goes away. We bury it dead. It no longer exists. Rib is no longer a part of our world in color. Mick is the standard. Okay? And so on the hue circle, where we have yellow at 12 o'clock, magenta at 5 o'clock, cyan at 7 o'clock, we have our primary colors. And then we have our secondary colors, violet, our O, and green. Secondary colors, second generation. Third generation of colors include orange, red, red-violet, RV, blue-violet, BV, blue-green, BGR, and then yellow-green, YGR. Third generation of colors include two colors, are intermediate colors, okay? This gives you the structure of the hue circle. Now, what I want you to do is I'm gonna feed new words to you. First word is analogous. Analogous. Analogous is a word that's pretty simple. What it means is it is a relationship of colors that are next door to each other. Okay? Now, before we go any further, I want to give you an analogy, a new analogy. Let's say you live over in Rushing Hall, and for the sake of this description, I'm going to say that Rushing Hall is 8 stories tall, okay? And you live on the 4th floor, all right? And it's early Tuesday morning, you call home, talk to your mom. You're crying, you're upset, your mother wants to know what's wrong. And you're upset because, and you tell your mom, I am upset because I have not had any sleep at all last night. I have an exam this morning, I'm just feeling so anxious. And your mother says, well, why didn't you sleep? And you say, because my neighbor had a party all night. The music went on, there were people screaming, there were gunshots, it was mayhem, and I didn't get any sleep at all. And your mother is like, well, I'm going to report this. This is not right, we paid too much money for your tuition. I am going to make a formal complaint to about your neighbor. So then she goes, which neighbor is it? Now, you live on the 4th floor of an 8-story building. Is it the neighbor to the right of you? Is it the neighbor to the left of you? Is it the neighbor across the hall? Is it the neighbor above you? Or is it the neighbor below you? So you've got neighbors that are joining right in different directions. So you have to be specific with that. So typically, in other color worlds and other classes, most people will describe this, will teach analogous as colors to the left, to the right, meaning that a yellow, what's analogous to yellow would be orange and yellow-green, analogous. Got it? However, what I want you to imagine is this hue circle here on the board. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the hue circle on its back. All right? So now the hue circle is lying down. And I have it lined down. Here's yellow over here, violet over here, magenta over here, cyan over here, and then all the other colors around it. So now they're lying down on its back, okay? And I'm going to add a top hemisphere at the North Pole. I'm going to make white. Bottom hemisphere, I'm going to, South Pole is black. Do you see where I'm going with this? So now, and I have the core of the Earth here, if I draw a line through here, an axis, from white all the way to black, I have a value scale. Got it? The colors are on the equator, and everything above the northern hemisphere are my tints. Everything below the middle hemisphere are my shades. And then we're going to talk about the inside colors in just a little bit. Okay? So now, if I am a color, not only do I have a neighbor to the left and to the right, I have a neighbor above me, tints, neighbor below me, shades, and a neighbor across the way, which is what we're going to talk about next. The neighbor across the way. Okay? If you look at your hue circle, you will see that every color has an opposite color, has an opposing color that goes through the center of the hue circle. That relationship of two colors like yellow and violet are considered opposites. They're also called complements. Complements with an E, not with an I. Complements with an I is you look lovely today, a complement with an I. A complement with an E is complementary colors related to color relationships. There are two different types of complementary relationships. One is a direct complement, and the other one is an indirect complement. And what that means is a direct complement is yellow, violet, two complements, they are direct. An indirect complement would be yellow and blue violet, or yellow and red violet. It is the adjoining color next to the direct complement. Got it? It's either one of those, indirect, direct. So far, so good. Any questions? Okay. Keep this in mind. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this sphere from being an earth with a core in the middle to now being a grapefruit. And this grapefruit is cut in half. And as you know, with grapefruits, there's a very thick rind to it, correct? Okay. Every color on the rind of the grapefruit are pure hues of primary and secondary and intermediate colors, okay? Now, inside of the grapefruit, we have the fruit or the meat of the fruit, which is essentially a palette of colors that are blended between complement A and complement B. So if I place the hue circle on the floor and I'm standing at yellow and I look directly across the hue circle, violet is my direct complement, okay? I'm standing on yellow, I'm a bright, clean, super bright yellow. Add a little bit of my complement violet in the yellow, what happens to me? Add a little bit more complement in me, what happens to me? A little bit more violet, what happens? What is happening to that yellow as I add more violet to it? Any ideas?
It's getting less saturated.
It is becoming less saturated, it's becoming duller, it's becoming dirtier, it is getting closer in proximity to that complement. Got it? And the same thing happens when you're a violet and you're adding yellow to it, you are adding its complement and you're dulling it as well. Okay? All of the colors, and there are many, many colors in the grapefruit that are transitioning complementary mixes like this. All of these colors in here have a name, all of them. they are referred to as tertiary colors. Okay. A tertiary color can be described two ways. A tertiary color can be a color made from two complements, and it can also be a color made from three primary colors. Why is that so? And why is that the same thing? Anybody? Nobody? 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 Take a guess. A tertiary color, this is a tertiary color in here, right? Any color in there. If it's inside of the grapefruit, it's a tertiary color. It's made from two primary colors, this color and this color, correct? That's a tertiary color. Why is it also three primary colors?
Is it because it uses parts of
Yes.
every color?
Think about it. Let me go back to yellow and violet, okay? Yellow is a primary color. Violet is a product of two primary colors, three primary colors. Every complement is made of three primary colors. Got it? Okay? If the color is muddy, is dull, is dirty, it's a tertiary color. This is a tertiary color. This is a tertiary color. This is a tertiary color. All colors that are tertiary colors are made from three primaries. Okay? Good? So far so good? Clear? Questions? No? All right. Oh, so the tertiary colors are all the colors that are inside of the grapefruit in the rind. All of them. Okay? And if I were to compare two complements together, yellow and violet put together, there's a conflict. The complements are not analogous. However, remember, an analogous color is a color that's a neighbor. So if I add a little bit of violet, these colors are analogous, even though it has its complement in it, but it's not it's not a huge jump from yellow to violet. It's a subtle neighboring, adjacent colors that are neighboring of each other. Okay? Okay. Close your eyes. I want you to think of a relationship of another person that you have in your life. Close your eyes, please. A relationship of somebody that is in your life that you would consider somebody you absolutely love to pieces, but there's one subject, one topic that just makes you toxic with that person. As a matter of fact, you guys are considered opposites of each other when it comes to this particular topic, but there's so much love between you, you just go ahead and open your eyes. You know that there's more love than there is that topic. I'll give you an example. This could, by the way, could be a relative, it could be a friend, it could be a roommate, it could be a spouse, it could be a partner, and you just both equally love each other, but 99% of this is just absolute loving, but there's that one topic. It might be political, it might be you cannot mention her friend, because if you do, all hell's gonna break loose, or maybe it was that one incident that happened with the car at the club and a couple of drinks, and you just don't go there. Maybe it's your mom, who you're just sick and tired. You yell at her if she'll say, did you brush your teeth? And you'll say, how old am I? Why do you keep asking me? I want to have bad breath. Leave me alone, damn it, But we love our mom. We just hate it when she reminds us of this particular thing, right? Got it? You see, do we have somebody in mind? Do we have somebody in mind? Okay, good. Here's your weekend homework. Adobe Illustrator, artboard is 10 by 10 inches. The palette is MYC MIC. The palette you're going to be working are direct complements, a set. And the title of this is called Opposites Attract. If I were you, I would start off with complement A, complement B, and I would make a blend, because that's the palette that you're gonna work with, okay? The composition, 10 by 10, is pretty much analogous. All in here. It's all analogous. We get along so well. Love, no tension, just really great, except one area that shows conflict. That's the area we don't go to. That's the friend. That's the Friday night that happened with a couple of drinks. That's, this incident with the police. That's the incident with, my lying to her or him. That's the incident that we really, but all of this is all harmony, love, peace. But in one area, there's that, don't go there, but we're gonna just bring it up in the composition. Is that clear? Questions? You look confused.
Direct.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want it to be grid-based, like a,
I'm gonna leave it up to you.
okay,
Yeah, you know how I am about, I started you off with coming and going. It was grid-based. I like the idea of figure ground. I don't want any words. I don't want any illustrations. I don't want any symbols. I want it to be abstract. I'm focused on the color palette. I want it to be analogous with a 1% conflict showing. How do you show that conflict? Using that palette. It's all about relationships. Okay? Sorry.
Direct complement is the one that's just straight across. Right?
That's right. So you're gonna use your revised hue circle for this. So if I were you, I'd go back and fix your hue circle based on what I showed you today. Use that hue circle as a tool to identify your direct complements, make a blend, use that palette to create your opposites attract composition. Okay? I made this offer available to the morning group. You can screenshot it, put it on Facebook. I will respond, and usually my response will be too much conflict, not enough love. I need to see more love. Okay, which means I want more harmony in this. I don't want to show a contentious composition. I don't want to see a contentious composition. I want to see a harmonious composition, just a little bit of tension over there. Because the basis of the relationship is not based on this tension. It's based on what we have in common. Commonalities. Sir?
So what you're saying is you want to take one color to another color blend
And use that
palette
for your composition.
and cover the sheet and set for the one place where
there's conflict.
Okay.
From that palette.
I think I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the problem is I don't ever really give it directly, and that's when people go like, if you just show me what you want, I'll do it, right? But I don't do that. That's really frustrating, right? Anything else? Now do you see what I mean by if you were absent today, how much you would have missed? Oh well, anything else? We good? We good? Have a good weekend.